Okay, so my first question, and you'll know the answers to these. I want you to sort of tell the students that are here and that will listen in, what was the interview process like for you? And so for those of you, it's like we've separated out from the people that just graduated last year and the people that graduated a little bit later. And so for those of you who are employers, you can talk about what the hiring process is like for you. And Tanya said she remembers her interview process. So you can talk about both sides of that. So how was your interview process?
Well, my interview for Coastal Carolina was one day. I had technically 2 interviews and a presentation. The first interview was with the Vice President of Instruction, and then I did a teaching demonstration, and then I did an interview with a panel of library staff and faculty and other people on campus who had a stake in who the library hires. So that was how my process was.
I had 2 interviews, the first of which was a series of questions. They asked me about my experiences. I was a teacher prior to becoming a librarian, so they asked me about that and how I would transition from one position to the next. And then the second one was a more practical one where I had to, for one school, I had to actually teach the lesson. For the others, for the school that I'm at right now, I had to just present what I would do given certain units that had some holes in them.
So I was very lucky. I came in as a temp, so I only had a phone interview and got hired from the phone interview. I did interview for a position at High Point University back in spring, right before I graduated, and that was several rounds, I think 3. I went and met with the director, several of the staff members, taught a lesson, and then went back and met with the vice provost, and was very close to getting that job, but did not. It worked out.
For the content manager job, did you have to show your work?
I did have to send in several samples of some of the work that I've done.
Okay.
Well, since I've been around for so long, I've interviewed for many jobs and also interviewed people for jobs. And usually you're going to meet with a subset of people all through the library and possibly in the university. Many times it will also involve a preliminary phone interview. So, and I find phone interviews very difficult because you cannot read body language. And so the more practice you do, probably the better. And I would also advise practicing for your interview as well. I find interviews on both sides very tiring. So it's important to take care of yourself and to dress comfortably, but nice.
Here's a secret.
So I was very fortunate. I was working in the ZSR library and had been doing work there for 9 years. So everyone there was familiar with the work I did and me.
That was a really long interview, 9 years.
That's a good way of looking at it.
It's an audition.
Actually, we have a formal process, much like what Tanya was describing with phone interviews, an on-site interview, which lasts a day or a day and a half. It's sort of like a gauntlet. And I did not have to do any of that. Our dean took me to lunch and said, Greg, I want to make you reservation librarian. And so I feel very fortunate. I didn't have to do the gauntlet.
It only took lunch to get you to...
I'm like, yes, there.
You were easy.
I've been on lots of interviews. The only thing I could say is be yourself. Try to align your goals with what you see as the goals of the profession. That's going to help you a lot. Fortunately, this last job that I found myself on, I was actually recruited for that, but I still had to go through a hiring process. Now, it was a recruitment process for 3 years of them asking me to come work for the vendor. I won't use the language that I used with them initially, but
That was a no?
I just never saw myself selling, but then I realized, in a way, we're all selling the library. Every day, we have to be, asking people, hey, are you using your library? Reminding them that they do, even if they're not checking out books. Lots of different ways they can engage with the community or the library. I'm talking from the vendor side. I always think about looking out. But yeah, I mean, just be yourself and, you know, have faith in yourself. Remember that, don't worry about, what do they like me? Focus on, am I gonna like this place that I'm coming into?
Well, this is a timely question for me because I've just been involved in interviews and I'm getting ready to be involved in some more. And on a very practical level, we use almost all experiential questions. About 95% of our questions are, as an example, tell us about a time you had a miscommunication with someone. What happened? And how did you handle it? What did you do? And the reason I'm mentioning this is because what we're asking for is an answer out of your experience. And it's very obvious if someone is not answering out of their experience. So don't do that. Even if you have to take the question and tweak it or morph it or take it out of the work experience, and it might be something that happened at school or church or in your neighborhood, respond with something that you have actually experienced, because the generalities are going to stick out like a sore thumb, and you're not going to compare well to the other interviews. Does that make sense? Okay.